The first weeks of school had passed with excitement. Every day brought something new to learn and new people to meet. Mary was one of the most active students in her class. She could hardly keep her hand down, always eager to answer whenever the teacher asked a question. Marin, meanwhile, had fallen completely in love with art class. Every page of her notebook was filled with colorful flowers, little houses, and enormous smiling suns. But for Mayhin, things were not quite so easy. The quiet little girl. One day during math class, the teacher wrote a simple addition problem on the board. The children immediately began shouting answers. "I know it, teacher. The answer is 12. No, it's 13. The classroom buzzed with excitement. But Mayhin remained silent. She gripped her pencil tightly in her small hands and kept her eyes fixed on her notebook, as if she was afraid of making a mistake. The teacher walked over to her desk. Her voice was gentle. "Mayhin, would you like to try?" For several seconds, Mayhin said nothing. Then she lowered her head slightly. "I don't understand." Her voice was so quiet. It sounded as though she was ashamed. A small heart breaks. When class ended, the children rushed outside to play. But Mayhin stayed behind, slowly organizing her desk. Mary noticed immediately. She walked over and asked softly, "Are you okay?" Mayhin forced a smile. "I'm fine." But her eyes told a different story. The evening silence. When they returned home to their villa in Baku, Aitan sensed that something wasn't right. Normally, Mayhin was one of the more talkative girls. But that evening, she was unusually quiet. She even ate her dinner slowly. Mutton watched her carefully. "How was school today?" Mayhin shrugged. "Fine. But parents sometimes understand the things children never say." After dinner, Aitan gathered the girls around the dining table. She placed colorful pencils, small notebooks, and a few chocolates in front of them. Then she sat beside Mayhin. Gently brushing a strand of hair behind her ear, she smiled. "My beautiful girl." Mayhin looked up. Aitan continued softly. "Not everyone learns at the same speed." Mayhin listened quietly. Some people understand something immediately, and others simply need it explained in a different way. Then she gently took her daughter's hands. "That doesn't make you any less intelligent." Tears began to gather in Mayhin's eyes. "But everyone else could do it." Aitan answered immediately. "I have absolutely no doubt that you can do it too. Chocolate mathematics." At that moment, Mutton pulled out a chair and sat down at the table. He picked up a handful of chocolate candies. Then, in the voice of a very serious professor, he announced, "Attention! We are about to begin the most important math lesson in the world." The girls immediately burst into laughter. Mutton placed 3 chocolates on the table. "These belong to me." Then he added 2 more. "And these belong to your mother." Marin instantly interrupted. "I want some too." Mutton laughed. "First, let's solve the problem." Then he turned toward Mayhin. "Now tell me, how many chocolates are there altogether?" Mayhin began counting carefully, touching each candy one by one. 1, 2, 3. She paused. Then suddenly her eyes lit up. 5. Mutton clapped loudly. "Correct answer." Marin immediately joined in with applause. Mary grinned proudly. "I told you that you could do it." A small victory. A little later, Mayhin managed to solve another problem entirely on her own. She jumped from her chair with excitement. "Mom, Dad, I did it." The happiness on her face was impossible to describe. Aitan immediately pulled her into a hug. Holding her tightly, she whispered, "I knew you could." Mayhin rested her head against Aitan's shoulder. And perhaps for the very first time, she was learning how to try without being afraid of failure. Sisterhood. After that night, Mary began sitting beside Mayhin during every homework session. And Marin supported her in her own special way. Even when Mayhin gave a wrong answer, she would cheerfully say, "That's okay. We'll try again." And little by little, Mayhin stopped feeling alone. End of chapter. Some children learn quickly. Others learn through love. And sometimes, what a child needs most is not the right answer, but a voice that says, "You can do it." Autumn had completely transformed the city of Baku. The leaves on the trees had turned shades of yellow, orange, and crimson, while a gentle chill settled over the streets. Thin mist gathered on the windows each morning, and by evening, the warmth inside the villa felt even more comforting. The school was also preparing for the new season. This year's autumn festival had become the event everyone was eagerly anticipating. Each class would perform on stage. Songs would be sung, poems would be recited, and small plays would be performed. The children had been talking about it for days. And of course, Mary, Mayhin, and Marin had eagerly signed up to participate. The three sisters' idea. One afternoon, after returning from school, the girls rushed excitedly into the living room. "Moom, Dad." Mutton lowered his newspaper and laughed. Judging by that energy, something important must have happened. Mary spoke so quickly she could barely catch her breath. "We're going to perform at the festival." Marin immediately jumped in. "And together," Mayhin added shyly but happily. "We're preparing a poem about sisterhood." Aitan's eyes softened. "Really?" Mary nodded. "Because we love being sisters." The words touched Aitan deeply. Because years ago, these three children had been strangers. Now, they were each other's strongest bond. Rehearsals at home. From that day on, the evenings at the villa became much livelier. The living room transformed into a tiny theater stage. Aitan played background music from her phone. Marin occasionally forgot her lines. Mary acted like a director, correcting everyone. And Mayhin nervously clasped her hands together during rehearsals. Whenever Mutton returned home from work, he would sit on the sofa in his suit and watch them perform. The moment he heard their voices, the fatigue of the day seemed to disappear. One evening during rehearsal, Mary began reciting loudly. "Sisterhood means love." Marin immediately continued. "Sisterhood means someone who stands beside you." Then it was Mayhin's turn. In the past, she would have been too nervous to speak. But this time, she took a deep breath. And in a calm yet strong voice, she said, "And sisterhood means never having to face life alone." The room fell silent for a moment. Mutton couldn't take his eyes off his daughters. Aitan quietly wiped away a tear. Because Mayhin was no longer speaking through fear. She was speaking through confidence. Festival day. At last, the long-awaited day arrived. The school grounds in Baku were decorated with colorful autumn decorations. Parents hurried around carrying cameras. Children could barely stand still from excitement. The hallways buzzed with laughter and anticipation. Backstage, the three sisters stood side by side. All of them wore outfits inspired by autumn colors. Mary was excited. Marin couldn't stop bouncing up and down. And Mayhin quietly rubbed her hands together. Aitan immediately knelt beside her. "Are you nervous?" Mayhin nodded slightly. Aitan gently held her face. "When you step onto the stage, think about us." Then she smiled. "Because we're always beside you." Mayhin took a deep breath. And for the first time, she didn't run away from her fear. Under the stage lights, when the announcer called their names, the three girls walked onto the stage hand in hand. The auditorium instantly became silent. Bright lights shone on their faces. In the front row, Aitan and Mutton felt their hearts racing. The music began. Mary stepped forward. "Sisterhood means love." Marin continued. "It means someone who helps you up when you fall." Then Mayhin spoke. This time, her voice didn't shake. "And sisterhood means a heart that never lets go of your hand." The entire hall remained silent. Everyone was listening. For the final line, the three girls embraced each other. Then spoke together. "We are sisters, because we chose each other." The applause. For a brief moment, there was silence. Then the hall erupted into applause. Teachers stood to their feet. Parents wiped tears from their eyes. Aitan could no longer hide her tears. And Martin watched his daughters with overwhelming pride. Then he whispered softly, "They are our daughters." Aitan squeezed his hand. Martin continued, "And they always will be." At the end of the night, when they returned home, the girls were still buzzing with excitement. They applauded for me. My teacher hugged me. I didn't make a single mistake. As Aitan listened, one thought filled her heart. Sometimes a person doesn't give birth to a family. Sometimes they raise one with love. And that night, the villa once again fell asleep wrapped in happiness. Some people grow up in the same house. Others grow up in the same love. And sometimes, three little girls standing hand in hand on a stage become the most beautiful miracle a family could ever know. Several weeks had passed since the autumn festival. By now, everyone at the school in Baku knew Mary, Mayhin, and Merin. Children waved at them in the hallways. Teachers still talked about their performance. Some students had even started calling them the Three Sisters. At first, the girls loved the attention. But over time, it began to bring some unexpected challenges. A quiet recess. One afternoon during recess, the school playground was as lively as ever. Children were running, playing soccer, jumping rope. Mary and her classmate Zainab were playing jump rope. Merin stood nearby clapping, while Mayhin counted aloud. 12, 13, 14. Laughter filled the air. Then another girl from their class, Layla, walked over. She stood quietly watching them for a moment. Finally, she spoke in a slightly hurt voice. "You three sisters are always together." Mary stopped the rope. Layla continued, "You don't really spend much time with anyone else." The cheerful atmosphere suddenly faded. Mary didn't know what to say, because they had never meant to leave anyone out. They were simply so used to being together. Mary quickly smiled. "It's not like that. We like playing with everyone." But Layla just shrugged. "It doesn't matter." Then she turned around and walked away. Mayhin watched her sadly. Merin whispered, "Did we do something wrong?" No one had an answer. The dinner conversation. That evening at dinner, Mary seemed unusually quiet. Normally, she was the one talking the most. Now she simply pushed food around her plate. Aitan noticed immediately. Did something happen? Mary looked up. Then she carefully explained everything that had happened at school. Layla's disappointed expression. The way she walked away. Everything. Aitan listened closely. Then she spoke softly. "Sometimes people feel lonely." The girls listened carefully, especially when they see others who are very close to each other. Martin nodded in agreement. Aitan continued, "Making someone happy can sometimes be a very small thing." "How?" Merin asked. Aitan smiled. "Sometimes, simply inviting them to join your game." The next morning, the sisters talked among themselves. Mary was determined. "Today we're inviting Layla to play with us." Mayhin smiled slightly. Merin bounced excitedly. "We can jump rope and play hide-and-seek too." At recess, Layla was standing alone again. She looked as though she wanted to join in, but wasn't sure if she should. Mary took a deep breath, then walked toward her. "Layla." The girl looked up in surprise. Mary lifted the jump rope. "Would you like to play with us?" For several seconds, Layla couldn't speak. The hurt expression on her face slowly changed. First surprise. Then a small smile appeared. "Really?" Mayhin walked over beside her. "Of course. It's more fun when we play together." Merin immediately grabbed her hand. "Come on." And that day, the laughter of four little girls echoed across the playground. A new friendship. As time passed, Layla became one of their closest friends. They studied together, played together, and sometimes she even spent weekends at the villa. Whenever Aitan saw them playing games together in the living room, she smiled quietly. because her daughters had learned something important. Love does not become smaller when it is shared. It grows. Around the dinner table. One evening during dinner, the girls excitedly told stories about their day. Martin listened carefully. Then he smiled proudly. "So, it seems you're not only sisters." The girls looked at him curiously. Martin continued, "You're also very good friends." Marin immediately asked, "Is friendship really that special?" Without hesitation, Martin answered, "It's one of the most beautiful things a person can have in life." Aitan looked at her daughters. The children who had once been afraid of being left alone were now making sure no one else felt lonely. And perhaps that was what being a real family truly meant. End of chapter. Friendship does not always begin with grand words. Sometimes it begins with a simple question. "Would you like to play with us?" And that single sentence can save a small heart from loneliness. As the final days of the school year approached, everyone was beginning to feel the excitement of summer vacation. The hallways were no longer filled with conversations about exams. Now, everyone was talking about holiday plans. One morning, the teachers entered the classrooms with exciting news. This year, the school would organize a 3-day nature and adventure camp for the students. The children would set up tents in the forest, go on nature hikes, and spend their evenings singing around a campfire. The classroom instantly exploded with cheers. And of course, Mary, Mayhin, and Marin could barely stay in their seats. Excitement comes home. After school, the 3 girls burst through the front door. "Moom, Dad." Martin lowered his newspaper and laughed. Did something catch fire, or what happened? Mary spoke so quickly she could hardly breathe. "There's a camp." Marin jumped up and down. "We're going to sleep in tents." Even Mayhin was talking faster than usual. "And it lasts 3 whole days." Aitan smiled. But hidden within that smile was a touch of sadness. Because for the first time, the girls would be away from home for several days. A mother's quiet worry. That evening, while the girls sat in their room discussing what they should pack for camp, Aitan quietly made tea in the kitchen. Martin noticed the thoughtful expression on her face. "What's wrong?" Aitan smiled softly. 3 days feels like a very long time. Martin pulled his chair closer. "They're growing up, Aitan." Sometimes those words were beautiful. And sometimes they hurt. Aitan took a deep breath. "I know." Her eyes grew moist. "But you never really get used to it." Getting ready. As camp day approached, the house filled with a pleasant kind of chaos. Sleeping bags were purchased. Warm socks were packed. Small flashlights were tucked into backpacks. Secretly, Marin wanted to bring her teddy bear. Mary immediately protested. "A real camper has to be brave." Marin crossed her arms. "My teddy bear is brave too." Martin burst out laughing. Meanwhile, Aitan checked every bag over and over again. "Did you pack your jackets? Are your medicines here? Don't forget to stay warm at night." The girls answered in unison. "Okay, Moom." But Aitan still couldn't stop worrying. Saying goodbye. The morning of the camp arrived. The front of the school in Baku was crowded. Parents hugged their children one last time. Teachers checked attendance lists. Children ran around shouting with excitement. Near the buses, everything felt wonderfully chaotic. Aitan hugged each daughter one by one. First, Mary. "Take care of your sisters." Then Mayhin. "If you're scared, tell your teacher." Finally, she knelt beside little Marin. "Don't forget to wear your jacket at night." Marin nodded. "I promise, Mom." Martin kissed each of them on the forehead. Then, trying to sound serious, he asked, "What's the most important rule?" The 3 girls shouted together. "We never leave each other behind." Martin smiled proudly. As the bus drove away. After the children boarded the bus, they began waving through the windows. "Moom, Dad." The bus slowly pulled away. Aitan kept waving until it disappeared from sight. Only then did she quietly wipe her eyes. Mutton stepped beside her and placed a hand on her shoulder. "They'll be fine." Aitan leaned her head against him. "The house suddenly feels so quiet." Mutton chuckled softly. "Maybe it's time for us to learn how to miss them a little." The first night at camp. Camp was even better than the girls had imagined. For the first time, they set up their own tent. They hiked through the forest. They listened to birds singing among the trees. Mary was fearless as always. Mayhin was nervous at first, but slowly relaxed. And Merin never stopped asking questions. Why is that star brighter than the others? Why does firewood crackle? Does a campfire ever fall asleep? The teachers struggled to keep up with her endless curiosity. The phone call. That evening, after the campfire was lit, the children took turns calling home. The moment the call connected, all three girls started talking at once. "Mom, there are so many stars here." "Dad, we built a campfire. We saw butterflies during our hike today." The crackling sound of the fire could be heard in the background. Aitan closed her eyes and listened. They sounded happy. And that was enough. After the call ended, silence filled the room. Aitan took a slow breath. Then whispered, "3 days really is a long time." Mutton smiled. He walked toward the kitchen. "Well then." Aitan looked at him curiously. Mutton winked. "Why don't we build a little campfire in the garden too?" Aitan burst into laughter. Perhaps the longing wouldn't disappear. But sometimes, love makes waiting beautiful too. When a child grows up, first their room becomes quiet, then the house. But a mother's heart, no matter how far her children travel, always carries the sound of their voices within it.
If you're curious about the continuation of this story, you can support me by subscribing to my channel. Liking the video and sharing your thoughts in the comments greatly helps my stories reach more people.